Oh boy, disclaimer.
Hello one and all, and welcome to day 2 of Simpsons Treehouse of Horror Countdown Reviews. Watch if you dare. After the success of Treehouse of Horror in Season 2, it only seemed right to bring it back the next season. And I'll tell you this much, if the first one started the legacy, this one pretty much cemented it. The writers could have left the first Treehouse episode as a one-off, but in making a second, and frankly even better one, they pretty much guaranteed it an annual special. And we are eternally grateful. Much like the last episode, this one features a wraparound segment. This time, Homer, Bart and Lisa all fill up on their trick-or-treat candy, which causes them to have nightmares. Each nightmare is a respective segment. It's a great way to tie it all together. Back when they actually bothered to do that, anyway. After all, Halloween is the Night of Nightmares, so it's a fitting wraparound. So we start things off with Lisa's nightmare. In this segment, the Simpson family are on holiday where Homer purchases a severed monkey's paw which can grant 4 wishes. It may seem like a great purchase, but all wishes come with terrible repercussions. It's very clearly a parody of The Monkey's Paw, a short story by W. Jacobs. I just love how imaginative they were with this segment. Maggie's wish, for example, is gold. She makes a wish, a huge limo turns up, Homer starts getting excited, but...
Ooh, a new pacifier.
No!
Gets me every time. It's also very self-aware in places too. Bart wishes for the family to be rich and famous, which seems great at first, only for the entire town to alienate them.
If I hear one more thing about The Simpsons, I swear I'm going to scream.
At first they were cute and funny, but now they're just annoying. Oh, is there anything they won't do?
Self-aware comedy at its finest. The repercussions are great as well. Lisa wishing for world peace, only for aliens to invade, is brilliant. Speaking of which, this is where we see Kang and Kodos making their usual appearance. I find it funny how the alien species that has mastered spaceflight only have slingshots as weapons, and they're weak to wooden boards with nails in them. M. Night Shyamalan must have been taking notes. Also, this is the first time we see Kang and Kodos do their evil laugh. Overall, this segment is a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. It's funny, has some lovely visuals, and is a fantastic parody of its source material, whilst also becoming its own thing. Now on to Bart's Nightmare. No, not that one! That's better. Bart's Nightmare features something truly horrific. A father and son bonding! No, seriously, that's why Bart wakes up screaming. Before that point, he was probably loving it. This segment is a parody of the Twilight Zone episode It's a Good Life, which featured a young boy with godlike powers terrorising his town, forcing him to think happy thoughts, otherwise he will do horrible things to them. Take that story, make the boy Bart, and you're all sorted. One major difference though is that Bart, unlike the boy in It's a Good Life, actually knows what he is doing is wrong. He uses his powers to get good grades on tests, drive the school bus, and even make Moe insult himself without having to make the prank cool. The best bit though is seeing Krusty going crazy because Bart is making him work continuously without sleep.
Anyway, now let's go over and see if Sideshow Mel has any more of those legal, over-the-counter wake-up drugs of his.
Being honest, there isn't really much more to say about this segment. Not because it's bad, not at all, but because it's simple yet effective. You feel bad for everyone affected by this situation as they are all desperately trying to live their normal as life as they possibly can. I'd even argue that this is the first genuinely scary segment in a Treehouse episode. Okay, fine, it's not terrifying, but just the idea that someone can manipulate and control an entire town with the threat of doom is unnerving. Also, Homer as Jack-in-the-Box is funny as hell. I'll give it a 7 out of 10 for some genuine creep factor mixed with some good comedy. The third and final segment of the episode takes a dive into one of the most well-known and replicated horror stories of all time, Frankensteins Monster. Homer is fired by Mr. Burns for sleeping on the job and takes a job as a gravedigger at the local cemetery. After digging a grave, he takes a nap. However, things go badly wrong as Mr. Burns has a plan to create the perfect worker. by combining the spirit of the brain with the strength of a robot. And where does he go to get said brain, you ask? The local cemetery, of course. Yeah, you can see where this is going. This is the first Treehouse segment to truly follow characters other than the Simpson family. Sure, other characters briefly appeared in previous segments, but this time the main focus is the other character. And I find it fitting that it's Mr. Burns, considering how many more Treehouse episodes would go on to revolve around him. Speaking of Mr. Burns, I honestly couldn't think of another character better suited to play the role of Frankenstein. It just blends perfectly. The animation in the lab is also fantastic, looking truly gothic in appearance. But where this episode delivers is the jokes. It's rather quite funny. Special shoutouts go to Bart and Lisa not even realising their own father is missing, and Homerbot not being quite up to standard. I just think it's great that instead of being a monster, Homerbot is just a lazy sleaze. It's a nice little twist on the source material. The segment does have an odd ending though. Mr. Burns ends up getting crushed by the robot and starts to die slowly. He starts ordering Splinters to retrieve a bunch of medical supplies, and Homer wakes up from his dream, only to find out Mr. Burns' head is now attached to his. Huh? Yeah, turns out this is the first Treehouse episode to officially be non-canon. You could argue that episode 1 could have taken place in the canon Simpsons universe because all 3 segments were ghost stories told with Bart and Lisa, but there's no way in hell you can explain away this without it being non-canon. Still, it's a pretty fun ending to a great Halloween special. Once again, I'll go 7 out of 10. Mr. Burns is great, the atmosphere and animation is wonderful, and it's a great take on the legendary Frankenstein tale. Well, it's another solid Treehouse episode for me. All 3 segments of this episode are 7 out of 10 in my opinion. The segments are all entertaining and are great parodies of their respective source material. If I had to pick a favourite segment, it would be Barts Nightmare because, as I said, it did feel creepy at points, but all 3 of them deliver. 7 out of 10 and another great instalment of the series. As for its ranking, well, I actually prefer it to the first, even if they both scored the same. The way I look at it is it's good all the way through, as opposed to being great, then meh, then great again. Both episodes get to the same goal of being really good, it's just episode 2's journey is a little bit more smooth. And that's it for this review and this video. Do you agree with my thoughts, or do you think I'm talking poppycock? What are your thoughts on Treehouse of Horror 2? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.